Alright YouTube, how you guys doing? Welcome to Apple Weekly number 23 I believe, the show where I cover everything Apple, give you all the latest stories and give you my opinions, and hopefully you guys can post a comment, or even better, post a video response. Now before I continue, I want to show you this cool thing that was given to me by one of my relatives this week, and I thought it'd be kind of appropriate to put it in this segment, known as the iLighter, and pretty nifty, wouldn't you say so? But really, moving along, got tons of juicy stories and I don't want to waste any more time and get straight into it. The first story of today is pretty much a new OSx Lion feature. Although it's not been confirmed, new patents have been applied by Apple for this, and it's called the Virtual Safe Deposit Box. And as the name suggests, what you do is you've got a file and you put it into the safety deposit application and it syncs it in with the cloud. Now this something goes in hand with Apple's iDisk. This is rumoured to kind of replace it, and it's going to kind of work as an external backup, so you don't need to carry about hard drives or USB sticks. Now Apple has been working or investing heavily on the cloud, and in specific the North Carolina facility, which is going to be opened very shortly. There's going to be a dedicated iOS application, so you've got files at any kind of device, whether it be an iPod Touch, an iPad, an iPhone, iMac or Macbook Pro. Again, this is just a patent, it's not been confirmed. Apple files hundreds and thousands of patents but they don't go with it. But it kind of does make sense because John Gruber has reported previously that Apple is working towards a Dropbox killer. Not too sure why Apple just didn't buy Dropbox or outright, that just kind of made sense. And Steve Jobs did say at the end of last year that they are working hard on a new Mobile Me, which is going to be taking it to the next level. Could this new feature be a part of Mobile Me? And I think, if they do plan to keep Mobile Me at the same price point, then yes, more features are welcomed, and it looks quite promising, to be honest. The next story, and I'm going to keep it short, is on the iPad 3. One analyst claims that the iPad 3 is going to have a double retina display resolution, and in specific it's going to be a 2048 by 1536. Now I say I'm going to keep it short is because the iPad 2 hasn't even been released and people are talking about the next iPad. Here's the thing, if the iPad 3 is released this year, later in September, as some people suggest, and the only change is the display to this new retina display, then is it really going to be worth getting? If the iPad 2 and when the iPad 2 comes out, I guess we'll get a better kind of understanding. If it's going to be a major bump, then probably we won't see the iPad in later this year. Although again, it kind of makes sense to have it around about the holiday season, and Apple having a yearly life cycle, they might want to change it, or they probably are looking to change it so people don't wait around Christmas not getting the iPad and then just waiting for a refresh. So again, you can't really say much. This is just one of many rumours. Anyone can kind of say this, and I guess we can only find out once the iPad 2, which is of course going to be released in the next few weeks. Early this week, Apple posted up a new job description, and in this job description they specifically mentioned television. But other than this, they also made quite a few, grammar mistakes, which suggest that someone who posted this was not really native in speaking English. Now of course, Apple have said that Apple TV is their hobby, although sales of Apple TV have skyrocketed since the new revision of the Apple TV. And what Apple tend to do this, and I've said this before, they kind of look at what the market is and make it better. So they've done that with the iPods. They look at the MP3 players, they just weren't good, so they took it and they worked at it and they brought out the iPods, which are hugely successful. Same with the iPhones, same with the laptops, they gave you a full kind of experience. And CES this year was all about 3D televisions, but the one underlying thing for me was wearing stupid glasses. Nintendo have done a good job with the whole 3DS, you don't need to wear glasses. So could Apple be kind of, bringing you a full TV, and most importantly, would you buy one? I think it kind of depends on the pricing, how well the iOS integration is. Are we going to get kind of a syncing between your iPod, your iPhone, some kind of interactivity? More so, the prices in the UK do need to kind of be reasonable. The current LED display is kind of ridiculous if you ask me, £900. I know it's cheaper elsewhere, but for a television, no doubt they are going to be using the same kind of materials. Again, this is always speculation at this point, but what I'm trying to say is the current Apple TV is priced at £99. What you don't want to put is a zero at the end of it. That's going to be ridiculous. Also, over the past few days there were stories that Apple was planning to launch a smaller iPhone, and the reason why they were doing this was to compete with Android a bit more. Of course, with Android you get different pricing, different models, and that's why Android in a way is successful, because every Tom, Dick and Harry is kind of stocking Android phones. You can pick up the lowest one is about £80, Then you've got like the £200 to £300, and then you've got the really high end ones, which is about the same price as the iPhone 4. Of course, Apple only having the iPhone 4 up for sale for one pricing point. Now what analysts were saying was, in order to kind of make a smaller iPhone, a cheaper iPhone in production cost, they were going to remove the internal storage, similar to what the Apple TV is. So you have no onboard storage, and they would be relying on the cloud. There would only be like 512 or 1 gig of storage on board for the OS, but I always thought that was ridiculous, and this was what one analyst was saying. But this week, the New York Times kind of crushed this rumour entirely. Although they are working on a cheaper iPhone, they're not working on a smaller one. To be honest, I think the current screen size of the iPhone 4 is perfect. You can do quite a lot on it. Any smaller than this, and removing the onboard storage, because you want to make a cheaper iPhone, didn't really go down too well with me. I don't know, but would you buy an iPhone with no onboard storage just because it was cheaper? Yeah, I am all up for having a few models here and there. Also, if they make a smaller screen, that means developers are going to have to rewrite coding for the iOS software in itself, so that's something Apple have always avoided, fragmentation, and it's something that they say that is going to lead disaster for Android, because developers are having to constantly work on different sizes, different models, and it's just a nightmare. So I don't think Apple, although yeah, they could have a cheaper option as the New York Times says, but having an entire different screen, probably not. They've got the iPad, which is big, it's upscaled. It was upscaled, but now they've got actual proper iPad orientated applications. But when it was initially launched, it was upscaled versions of the iPhone, but now you're getting kind of more mainstream stuff for the iPad in itself. So are we going to see a smaller screen iPhone? In my opinion, nope. The next story is in relation to LightPeak technology, and in specific, CNET is reporting Apple are going to be debuting LightPeak, or some sort of high-speed connection, again referring to LightPeak, very soon. Now, CNET doesn't know whether the new MacBook Pros, which are due out next week, which I'll talk about in a minute, whether Apple is going to implement this new technology in the new MacBook Pros. Of course, LightPeak is about significantly faster than USB 3. CNET are also reporting that they're going to change the name of LightPeak to something a bit more eye-friendly. They don't know when it's going to happen or what Macs are going to get it first. All they know is Apple is going to introduce it very soon. And now on to the chunkiest part of the story, the one that you've been waiting for, the MacBook Pros. Tons and tons of stuff this week happening on the MacBook Pros. First of all, we had this ad, or marketing ad, by Intel. Of course, now when you look at this, it is kind of Apple orientated, in that number one, the Surfer screen has been on Apple's marketing for some time. It kind of represents Final Cut. Secondly, the actual body, the cases of the MacBook, or the computer in question in the ad, is kind of similar to the whole liquid metal. Apple recently revised their website to include a more darker feel, and a lot of speculation as to Apple implementing liquid metal for their Macs and iOS devices in the future. And thirdly, the sentence where it said introducing the second generation of Intel Core processors. Of course, Apple are rumoured to be having the sandybridge processors in the MacBook Pros. So all these three things combined kind of confirms Apple is going to be introducing MacBook Pros very soon, and Intel kind of leaked this by mistake. I'm not too sure, but this ad does look quite positive in that respect. And the second thing that we've seen happen this week in relation to the MacBook Pros is the Apple online stores had a shipping date originally from 24 hours dropped to 3 to 5 working days, and that indicates that inventory is quite low. And thirdly, two Italian Mac rumour websites came out all guns blazing, and they revealed the Mac model numbers, or SKUs, for the upcoming MacBook Pros. And also they had the prices. They don't know about the specs, but they revealed the model numbers, which of course is a positive move. And they're also saying it's going to be released on the 24th of this month, which is of course this coming week, which is a Thursday, which is not normal for an Apple MacBook refresh date. They tend to happen on a Tuesday, but it's happening on a Thursday, and the reason why it's happening on a Thursday is because it's Steve Jobs' birthday. Fourthly, Best Buy also had the model numbers and SKUs, as you can see from the screen. Further to that, they also had pricing points which indicate they're at the same pricing point. But of course, if you happen to stay in the UK, it's not going to be the same pricing point, it's going to be a bit more. And lastly, loads of Apple resellers across the globe are pretty much dry on MacBook stock. Currys, the DSC group, again, zero stock. I've personally had someone contact me from John Lewis just saying They had a clearance this week of the MacBook Pros and they're due a next delivery this week. Germany resellers, Greece resellers, they're all again reporting zero stock. So the best way to kind of stay in touch with me is through Twitter. Anytime I find out, I'll kind of post updates. Again, twitter.com/i6glaswegian. And I'll also kind of personally say, do follow 95Mac, 95mac.com. They are quite up to date and pretty accurate as to what they released. They're the first people, who kind of release all the specs, information, rumours, stories. And a lot of people ask me what rumour sites I follow, where do I get my stuff from? Well, 95Mac is my kind of go-to source for all my rumour stuff. And guys, a bit of a breaking news, if that's what you want to call it, on the MacBook Pros. Just as I was editing this week's Apple Weekly, a new report by Apple Insider came, and I thought I would share it with you guys in this segment of Apple Weekly. Basically what Apple's done is they've sent out pallets of MacBook Pros to European distribution centres, and some of them could arrive by tomorrow, which is insane. And of course this again going hand in hand with this week's rumoured launch of the MacBook Pros. Apple has specifically asked the resellers not to tamper with the packages because these MacBook come in kind of a pallet, as you can see on the screen. They've got this black kind of cloak-ish thing around, and Apple have quite specifically told resellers that if they tamper with them, they're going to get their reseller rights taken away. Apple has said not to touch them until a formal announcement of the MacBook Pros is made in the next few days. So I guess this is going to be the week of the MacBook Pros, no doubt. So guys, that's it for this week. If you happen to work for an Apple reseller and you'd like to share some information with me, you know, do drop an email at iGlaswegian@gmail.com. If you can post screenshots, that would be great. If you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. I won't post your details. But if you know what the specs are, any information, you know, do leave a comment, do email me, let me know. And that's it for this video. I'll probably make another video as soon as more MacBook information has been launched. And guys, really thanks for watching. Remember, you can watch this on iTunes should you wish to do so, on your iPad, your Apple TV, your iOS device, whichever it may be. I'd like to thank, of course, Parcel Monkey for sponsoring this show. Remember guys, you can also join me at iGlaswegian.com, twitter.com/i6glaswegian, got a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/iGlaswegian. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Cheers. We have a new sponsor here at iGlaswegian, looking to send a package at the lowest price possible. Simple, visit parcelmonkey.co.uk, follow these 4 simple steps, have the package collected from your doorstep, and then sit back and relax.